Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel. Doing a post-punk / new wave, goth rock, power pop, punk video. I know it seems like I'm covering a lot of area, but actually most of these bands started off in one of these genres and moved into another one, or mixed these genres in one album. This one might go a little long because there's quite a few albums, but a few of the albums, or a few of the bands I'm going to show here, I'm going to show 3 or 4 albums. So we'll see how it goes. I kind of went down this route, this whole power pop, new wave, post-punk, after spending the better part of the last year doing Friday night live streams on the PB Thal channel. I'll put a link down below. A couple of the guys on there, John from Bitbot Boom, Patrick from PB Thal, and a little bit from Randy. I don't remember what Randy's channel is. Sorry about that, Randy. They've requested Patrick play some different power pop and quite a bit of punk stuff, some new wave stuff here and there. And it kind of got me into a few of those bands. These are all bands that I've heard of, that I knew for the most part. And then what got me really buying them was one of my local stores, Mojo Records, got a huge collection of 70s and 80s punk, new wave, and every one of those genres I just mentioned and everything in between. It was like a 300 album collection. I ended up buying like 30 or 40 of them, all super clean. First pressings, killer stuff. Original UKs of Joy Division. I didn't get those. I already had nice copies and they were way too much. The first 5 or 6 Cure albums in mint condition. I would have liked to get those. Those were sold out before I got there, but I got some really cool stuff. And then it kind of led me down a couple different rabbit holes. And then some other stuff that I've bought at other places as well. So we'll start off with a little bit of power pop with the Sorrows. This is one of those bands that you should know of as much as know the Knack. The Knack has a couple of songs that are better than anything the Sorrows did. But this Sorrows album is better than any of the Knack's full-length albums. They had some great songs, but the albums were just okay. This whole album is fantastic. Highly recommend checking this one out. Teenage Heartbreak is the album. Very much doing that Tiny Tie power pop thing that kind of the Knack was famous for. But Teenage Heartbreak and Bad Times on here are 10 out of 10 songs. I would give this album like a 7.5 out of 10, though. Really killer. When I got this about 6-8 months ago, I played this a couple times a day. Just a fantastic album and definitely one worth having in your collection. Next up, one of my all-time favorite bands, one of my all-time favorite albums, probably my top 5 favorite albums of all time, is where this band's debut is. It's one of my favorites. Funny enough, I never really explored any of their other discography. I don't know why. There's no real reason behind it. Maybe I just didn't run across the albums. Their second album I was familiar with. I had heard a couple songs from, but I had never ran across the album. Original pressings anyway. It's been reissued. However, the original pressings are less than the reissue are. And from what I understand, sounds better. Regardless, this is Violent Femmes. Hallowed Ground. Their debut again is one of my all-time favorite albums. This one has a little bit, or is still quite a bit of the sound from that first album. It has some cowpunk and a little bit of alternative rock mixed in. Really good. I really dig this. If the first album's a 10 out of 10, I'd say this one's about a 7 out of 10. I think the thing with that one is, when a band's debut is so good, I always kind of felt like that second album would kind of be a disappointment to me because the first album was such an amazing album. And this is one I had never heard at all. I wasn't familiar with. This is The Blind Leading the Naked, again, also from the Violent Femmes. This was the first one of these 2 that I bought. It was part of that big collection. And then Hallowed Ground I bought at another record store about a month later. Next up, a little bit of goth. new wave goth from Love and Rockets, Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven. This is actually a repress. Beggars Banquet has repressed all the Love and Rockets albums. This is one I was familiar with. I ran across the CD of this in a Goodwill maybe 10, 15 years ago and really dug it, played it quite a bit. I have always been looking for a nice original pressing of this record, but because of the color, the solid color, every time I find a copy, it's got ring wear, or it's just well played because it's a great album, so I never find it in good condition. These reissues sound fantastic, definitely worth getting for the 23 or 24 bucks that they are. As much as I love this album, though, there are other albums I didn't end up liking as much. I wasn't familiar with them. I had never heard them before. I've got Express here, and I have one other one as well that I don't have here in front of me. They're both good. They moved away from the goth to more the new wavy alt rock for the following albums. If you're not familiar with Love and Rockets, by the way, Love and Rockets is basically Bauhaus without Peter Murphy. So you got David J as kind of the main guy, and like I said, that first Love and Rockets album is fantastic. Highly recommend checking that one out. The other ones, maybe give them a listen online before you go and spend money on them. I still like them. They're just not near as good as that first record. Next up, we got a little bit of post-punk. So Gang of Four kind of took what Joy Division did in the 70s with post-punk and made it a little bit more palatable. They gave it added a little bit more rhythm to it. I love the first two, or the only two Joy Division records, but I actually prefer Joy Division's punk singles for before they went post-punk, but that's another story. But Joy Division, a lot of people don't like them. It's a very kind of robotic sounding music. I don't mean that being it's electronic, just the way the music is very robotic. And like I said, Gang of Four took that, added a little bit of rhythm to it. I haven't found Gang of Four's debut yet. I want an original pressing. The represses are out there. I may end up breaking down and buying one, but I want to find an original pressing because I have originals of everything else. But this is Solid Gold, their second record. Their first and second records are definitely the ones to have. Those are the post-punk records. Their first record is a 10 out of 10 entertainment, and then Solid Gold is right up there, 8, 9 out of 10. Fantastic album as well. But then, like a lot of these bands I'm going to show, they started changing their sound a little bit. So then you get Song of the Free the next year, and you still have the bass and drum from power punk, but you're starting to feel the new wave creep in. This is not near as good as those first two records, but it's still worth it. I still enjoy this one, and actually I enjoy the next one a little bit better. And then this is their fourth album. So you've got Gang of Four Hard. This one's actually a white label promo. This one here is there's just a little bit of that post-punk left in the drums. The rest of it is pretty much straight up new wave at this point. Still pretty good. There's 2 songs on here that are terrible, and the rest of the album I really like. Those 2 songs, though, I can't remember what they are. They just didn't do anything for me, though, and I think they probably really hurt the band, because they kind of fell apart after this. They were still putting out records, but they weren't doing that well anymore, and they eventually went back to more of that that post-punk sound. I'm going to screw these up because I'm covering so many genres, and this is just an EP that I picked up from, I think this was 82. So this is around the time of the third Gang of Four album, but this is the To Hell with Poverty and Cheeseburger What We Want EP. So that's Gang of Four. Next up, this is a band that has been all over the VC the last couple days because Rhino High Fidelity. Is it Rhino High Fidelity? I think it's what they call themselves. Is redoing television's debut, Marquee Moon. And Marquee Moon is a fantastic album. I actually ordered that. I would love to find an original pressing of it, but I don't have it. This is a repress from a few years ago. This is a fantastic album. This is one of those albums, one of those bands that other bands really talk about how great they are. They just didn't really get big on the radio. They didn't have huge commercial success like other bands from the scene. Unfortunately, these guys were big in New York. They were part of the CBGB's Max's crowd. I think they may have been I think they may have had a weekly show at CBGB's for a while, if I remember correctly. But Marquee Moon is just one of those iconic albums. Usually when they do a list of the greatest punk albums of all time, Marquee Moon is right up there in the top 10. Not really straight up punk. I would say they fall more in the proto-punk arena and art rock arena than straight up punk. Richard Hell was in the band for a time. Unfortunately, he left before they recorded Marquee Moon. Fantastic album, though. Highly recommend picking this one up. And then I did run across a super clean original U.S. pressing of their second album, Adventure. And I really like this one, too. This is a fantastic album as well. Nobody really talks about this one. Everybody talks about Marquee Moon. I think this album is just as good and is also a must-have. I don't know how easy these are to find. I've only ever seen it once, reissue or original, and it's this one. So, and this is one I just recently got within the last couple weeks. This is called Sketches. The demos 1974 to 1975. And what's cool about this is you've got the demo versions on the A side, or is it the B side? Yeah, the A side is the original recordings that were recorded by Brian Eno and with Richard Hell playing. I'm not sure. They're definitely more raw, but then when they got signed, they re-recorded them with, I believe it was Elektra that they were on, if I remember correctly. Next up, one of the classic garage bands that kind of moved into power pop, especially with this album. I bought a punk compilation, and the song, the title track off of this album was on that comp, and I loved it, and I had to buy it. I had been looking for it for a while and ran across this original pressing. It was actually sealed with the corner cut, so I got it for really cheap for a sealed original, though. But this is Flamin' Groovy, Shake Some Action. This is just I would say a top 10 power pop album. This is so good. You still hear a little bit of that garage, but this is straight up power pop. Really, really dig this one. Can't recommend this one enough. Just check out the song Shake Some Action. It's one of their biggest hits, if I remember correctly. But I love that song. I love the album as a whole. And then they follow that up, I believe, a year later with Flamin' Groovy's Now. This one is good, too. It's not as good as Shake Some Action, though. They're bringing a little bit more of that garage sound into this one, and not as much power pop. The power pop is still there. I still like this one, too. It's just not as good as the other. And next up, this is one of probably the most recent album that I'm showing here. I just bought this like a week and a half ago, and I've been playing it nonstop. This is the Jet Blackberries. The only reason I had ever heard of this band was because there was somebody in the VC about 8 or 9 years ago this was his favorite band. They were also on, was it Night of the Living Dead? The Night of the Living Dead soundtrack, I believe. It was. I always get the Living Deads mixed up. It's the one with the punk rock one. There's a song from the Jet Blackberries on there, so I was familiar with that too. I was shocked how great this album is, and this is like a $10-12 record. I paid $12 for it. The vinyl's in mint condition. The A side is really killer cowpunk, and then the B side is almost goth. And I say cowpunk. It's cowpunk with like the Cramps mixed in, some Cramps vocals. He gets some really aggressive. It's fantastic. And then the B side is more goth, 80s goth rock, which I love too. And then they finish the album off with a cover of Shakin' All Over, and it's one of my favorite covers of the song. Now, this one also, this is the first pressing. It came with a second one-sided LP that has some additional tracks, and those tracks are a mix of the two styles. But this is fantastic. This is one I highly recommend checking out if you have never checked out the Jet Blackberries. Next up, this is a band everybody's familiar with. It's Patti Smith. I talked about her in my 2024 Vinyl Tag video. I ended up picking up Easter, and I knew Because the Night, which was a huge hit, and Rock and Roll Inward. I'm not going to go into that one too much, but those were two huge hits for her. And I had never listened to the rest of the album, though, and got this and was blown away by how good it was. Every song on here is fantastic. So then I ended up shortly after picking up Radio Ethiopia, which I showed on the live stream, which is also a 10 out of 10 record. I love that record, especially the A-side. It's got one of my new favorite A-sides. I've been playing that a lot. It's still in rotation. I then picked up Wave. Actually, I picked up Wave and Radio Ethiopia the same day. These are all original pressings. So this is Wave. This was her fourth album. Not as good. She was kind of going more in the, I don't know, this is more like art pop direction. A lot of people say that this is kind of it's one you either love or hate. People that love this one say this is her best album. People that don't love it say this is her worst of the first four. This is widely considered to be the last of her great albums, though. I still really like it, but yeah, the writing is not as good as on the first three albums. Now, I've been looking everywhere for a really nice original pressing of Horses and haven't run across it, so I ended up buying this repress from a couple years ago, 2012. And, it's just one of those classic albums that everybody should have. I saw an article where they talked about this being the very first punk record, and Johnny Rotten got all pissed off about it, saying that this is bullshit, it's not punk. I'm kind of in the middle. There's definitely some punk in here, but there's definitely some art school rock in here as well. Very real arty. I really dig it, though. I mean, it's still her. She's a fantastic songwriter, and it's a fantastic album. But yeah, definitely some punk in there, but definitely not a punk album. Next up, the records. This was part of that huge collection as well. This is the only album from the records I'd recommend. I've checked out the other ones. They're okay. This is really the one, though. This is their debut. I think it was 79. Yeah, 79. The big hit on here was Starry Eyes. And John has said that he thinks that that's the greatest power pop song of all time. It's up there. It's pretty damn good. This whole album is good, but that song really stands out. And that's one that you'll find yourself listening to over and over again. Another, I paid like $8 for this one. You can get for really cheap. Definitely worth checking out if you want to check out what power pop is. Give it a little listen. Speaking of power pop and punk, we've got, I believe this is the second album from Blondie, Plastic Letters. Her first two albums are where it's at for me. I think her first two albums are 10 out of 10. The first album is more on the punk side. This one is got some punk, but there's some power pop, and you're starting to hear some new wave mixed in as well. And it's just kind of the perfect mix. What's this? Is it Bermuda Triangle? Bermuda Triangle Blues is fantastic. I mean, this whole album is killer. This is actually my favorite Blondie album. I really like the debut as well, though. Recommend checking this one out. Again, this is also an original pressing as well. Actually, I'm going through these quicker than I thought I would. Next up, we've got Ultravox. So Ultravox, I really want to find their first two records. Not really punk. Again, kind of that art school rock as well. Actually, I think I read something where they said that they called them art school dropout rock is what they called them. But there's definitely some punk in there, some glam in there, just a bit of the times. I believe. So the first few albums, they had their original singer, I don't remember his name. And then mid-year, came to the band and kind of took it over and took it a new direction. I believe in 76, 77, he was still in Thin Lizzy. If not, it was that same era, though, that he was with Thin Lizzy. After that, he moved to Ultravox. But this is live at the Rainbow in 77. This is their early sound, really fantastic. And you can tell with the logo. So this was the logo for the first few albums, Ultravox with the exclamation mark. And that's the more punky glam sound, really good. And then they went the new wave route. And I've got two of the new wave albums. This is Rage in Eden, another white label promo. This is kind of their really big one. This is the one that everybody knows. This just got a deluxe reissue, and a lot of people have been talking about this on the VC. This is good. I actually think the follow-up Quartet was better. So this is Quartet. This is my favorite of the later era Ultravox. This album is fantastic. If you like this one, you're going to love this one. My 2 cents. Man, flying through this quicker than I thought. Next up, we've got Lords of the New Church. Nice U.S. pressing of their debut. I don't really know how to... A little bit gothic, a little bit of punk. Really cool band, though. I wasn't familiar with them. I knew the name. I had never heard them before. And I think I could be wrong. I think they're it's guys from other bands that came together for this one. This is a debut, though, Lord of the New Church. And then I also picked up a single a little while later, maybe a month later, Live for Today. Need to give that one a spin again because I'm not remembering that one as well as I remember the others. I do remember I like it. Next up, almost done here. We've got Peroxide Heart Disease. This was a blind buy. It just kind of looked... It kind of looks like that 70s New York or London punk. And that's kind of what it is. This was one of the bands that had played regularly at CBGB's. And they also played at Max's pretty regularly. But they only ever put out one single. And that was Heart Disease and Christine. So this has a few other songs that came off of an acetate, an unreleased demo. And then the B-side is a bunch of live stuff from CBGB's and from Max's. The A-side's where it's at. The live stuff is just so-so. The first two songs, the original single, is the best on here. Definitely worth picking up, though. I think it's like $7 or $8. I'm not sure if this was a record store day or what. There's not a whole lot of information about it other than, what you can read about the band here. More in the power pop vein, though, than the punk vein. I still really dug this one. And then last but not least, I think I've shown one of these before. This is a new band within the last 3 years that John from Bit Bop Boom turned a bunch of us onto. He described it as a mix of, what did he say? He said a mix of Joy Division, The Cure, and Fugazi. Was it Fugazi? I think it was Fugazi. And that's a pretty good comparison. Now, they don't sound like all three of those bands on every song. Some of the songs have that Robert Smith Cure thing going. Some of them have the more punk rock, post-punk thing going. This band is fantastic, though. As soon as he played a song, I had to buy everything that they released. So this is their debut EP. Homefront is the name of the band. And this is Think of the Lie. And then they followed that up. I think this was... Is this last year or this year? It doesn't say the dates. But this is their full length, and it's called Games of Power. I can't recommend this enough. This sounds like 1982 in all the right ways. I've been playing this. I mean, this has been in rotation. I think I bought this about 4 months ago, and I've been playing it pretty much, well, at least weekly, sometimes daily. This is a fantastic album. So that's kind of the rabbit hole I've been down. If you've seen, I've done a couple of punk videos in the last few months. That's part of it too. It just got me listening to a bunch of stuff that, again, all these bands were bands that I know. I've known, I know some of the later hits from them. But a lot of these bands I had never dug into the early stuff, and I was also getting into the Johnny Thunder stuff, and so the whole New York and London scenes. There's so much great music out there that I just never got into at the time. That's it though, guys. I hope everybody's doing good. Take care, and I'll see you soon, VC. Bye.